Today's video is sponsored and brought to you by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN, of course, is one of the best solutions on the internet when it comes to protecting yourself when browsing the web, playing games, and streaming content. Whether you're on your phone to playing PC games, ExpressVPN has got you covered to protect you and your data. Personally, I use ExpressVPN for watching a lot of content while I do mindless grinding in games like Hyrule Warriors or Final Fantasy XIV Online. I watch a lot of film and TV shows, and I feel that I've watched so much of the US-based stuff that I've run out of options on my streaming services. Using ExpressVPN, I can connect to a different server from a different country and watch other types of content that I would normally not be able to. Really useful for those late night gaming sessions. And the nice part about it all, ExpressVPN comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to sign up today, head over to expressvpn.com/complete. Click the link in the box down below to find out how you can get your first 3 months free. Again, that's expressvpn.com/COMPLETE. Thank you once again to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video, and enjoy the show. This episode marks the 8th anniversary of The Completionist, so I've been thinking a lot about the concept of legacy lately, especially considering I'm doing a live tour all about legacies. With video games, there are entire franchises where just saying the name alone evokes a certain feeling. The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, and of course, Dragon Quest. For this anniversary, I wanted to look at a game that has a ton of history. Finding a balance between objective criticism and nostalgic joy is a fine line that's always difficult to walk. This especially holds true for games that are over 30 years old. Dragon Quest set the standard for how JRPGs evolved over the years, defining many elements that are still showcased in today's RPGs. Yet this first game in this legendary franchise has a surprising lack of things to do in it, apart from the main quest. Join me on an epic adventure to where JRPGs all began, when I complete Dragon Quest.
Here comes a new challenger! Yes! Danger!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. I wanted to talk about a game with an epic history as I start approaching an epic milestone myself. Today, I'm talking about the very first Dragon Quest, which is one of the great—
You better not start this freaking episode without me! Listen, Gerard, you know I love you. You know I do. But if you don't let me in on this episode to talk about freaking Dragon Quest, I'm gonna lose it.
Okay, I didn't want to put you in the dark or anything, Alex. It's no big deal. I thought you were busy doing your own thing.
Yeah, you know what? My grandmother's funeral is one thing, okay? But today is the day that we talk about Dragon Quest, and my family can wait!
Okay.
Let's go!
What is that?
I'm going into the game. Dragon Quest 1 isn't even up here. Is this it?
Dragon Warrior.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah,
All right, let's go in there. Yeah!
It goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. The Dragon Quest series is iconic. Maybe you've been playing it since the very first release, or maybe you just jumped in recently to the franchise's staggering 3-decade run. But for fans of JRPGs, this initial game, Dragon Quest, looms large. For a first-time franchise, Dragon Quest nailed it all the way back in 1986. I think for people who have never played this game before, they might be surprised at how uncomplicated the story is. The narrative is simple, yet effective. The player character is a descendant of the legendary hero Erdrick, and after meeting with the king, is tasked with rescuing the princess, defeating the evil dragon lord, and restoring peace to the vaguely medieval land of Alfgard. Nothing too convoluted, just a hero, a villain, a princess, and a ball of light. Clean. Just like the story, the gameplay itself is simple. You wander around an overworld, getting into random battles. There are dungeons to explore with treasure chests to open, and through battles, you slowly earn enough experience points to level up and improve your stats. There's marginally better equipment to purchase in every town, and spells are learned at a slow and steady pace. Now, if this all sounds familiar, it's probably because you've played any JRPG in the last 30 years. This gameplay feels a little quaint and simplistic, but I can't hold that against a game that's over 30 years old. Essentially, Dragon Quest laid down the track for JRPGs going forward. But what's also interesting is how much stuff isn't in this game. There are no secret endgame bosses or game-breaking magic spells that are learned when I hit that level cap. It's all pretty straightforward. Dragon Quest's legacy is obvious and its influence is undisputed, but I like digging into the history myself. Every modern JRPG owes something to Dragon Quest. This first game knocked it out of the park and invented a bevy of tropes that are here to stay. It's safe to say that JRPGs as a genre would not exist without Dragon Quest. Mainly, Dragon Quest is a fantastic example of a franchise that pretty much nails what it wants to be right out the gate. Yuji Horii, the series creator, had a vision in mind for the series. So many things are solidified in this first game. The turn-based combat, the exploration, the level grinding. As someone who has had a hell of a time over the years figuring out how to get things done in a way that I want them done, it's inspiring to play something that had such a strong sense of vision right out the gate. The monsters in this series are standouts. Who doesn't know about slimes or the Dragon Lord himself? The art direction is by Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball, and it's gorgeous. Dragon Quest was the first game that Toriyama worked on, and his style is instantly recognizable. I loved his character designs in Chrono Trigger, but it all started right here. I also just now realized that Goku in Dragon Ball Z is trying to get the Dragon Balls, and in this game, the hero's trying to get the Ball of Light. Crossover potential? I'm just saying, don't be surprised when Erdrick shows up in Dragon Ball FighterZ 2. And of course, there's the incredible music. JRPGs are known for their awesome tracks, but Dragon Quest is really one of the first games to have a truly incredible score. Series composer Koichi Sugiyama blew the world of game music wide open with Dragon Quest, and has composed music for the series ever since. Even Final Fantasy composer Nobuo Uematsu called Sugiyama the big boss of video game music. And I know a thing or two about being the big boss. Now obviously there were RPGs before Dragon Quest. Tabletop RPGs and war games have been around for decades. Yuji Horii has cited PC RPGs like Wizardry and Ultima as influences. But in bringing RPGs to the Famicom, Horii was forced to simplify and make gameplay possible for a single player. But in doing so, Dragon Quest established and solidified so many things that are considered staples of the genre, especially on console. Being able to pick up a convenient save point after dying, Dragon Quest. Leveling up quickly in the beginning of the game to build confidence in new players, Dragon Quest. It all starts here, folks. Even really basic stuff like selecting spells from a menu was popularized by this game. Someone had to do it first, and Dragon Quest was that someone. Well, some game, but you know what I'm saying. It's almost impossible to discuss this game in a vacuum because it's had such a strong influence on every JRPG that came after it. And as Alex will tell you, this game is so iconic that it seems cliche today. Everything that seems trite, cute, or tired was being done for essentially the first time in Dragon Quest I. There are just some great gameplay choices as well, like having the Dragon Lord's castle visible from the start of the game. I knew what I was working towards the entire time, and it felt empowering to learn how to reach the villain's lair that I had been scoping out the whole game. All that being said, I am playing this game on the Nintendo Switch. It's worth noting that this is the first time ever that Dragon Quest I has been playable on a Nintendo console since the Game Boy Color.
I hate to interrupt you, but...
All right, Alex, you promised you wouldn't get into this huge thing about the version I'm playing.
I won't! I promise I won't get into a whole huge thing. Picture this. You're a newly indoctrinated fan of Dragon Quest because you've been playing the amazing Dragon Quest XI or Dragon Quest Builders 2. You're like, you know what? I'd love to experience the original game in a slightly updated fashion, so you decide to check out your options on your fancy new Switch.
Look, you don't have to walk me through the whole thing, okay? I just grabbed what was on the Switch. There isn't much else to say, right? It's just an updated version of the game.
Au contraire, mon frère. The version that you completed is most definitely not the best version of Dragon Quest. It's a port of what was put on mobile a few years back, which is insane, because that in itself is a port of the remake that was made for the SNES in the 90s. The mobile port was compressed to fit on phones, and the music is terrible, but this is the version that Square Enix keeps bringing around. It's a travesty.
This is something you've thought about a lot, huh?
You have no idea. The SNES port had a couple of great updates to the classic game, like earning slightly more experience and gold from battles, but the mobile port takes all that and compresses things down. Even the Game Boy Color remake is better, even with the shorter names because of the space restraints. It's especially lame because Dragon Quest 4, 5, and 6 have all been remade from scratch. Why not give the first 3 games in the series the same treatment on what might very well become Nintendo's most popular console?
All right, look, buddy, I think you're starting to get off topic here.
Dragon Quest 3 is like one of the best and most popular games in Japan. Nobody at Square Enix wants to remake that gem? It's the game. Let me show love to my favorite series, Square Enix.
All right, look, even if this particular version isn't a remake from the ground up, it's still a fantastic introduction to the series, and all the content is there. Playing Dragon Quest is like playing a piece of history, and it's a treat no matter how you slice it. Dragon Quest was a phenomenon in Japan when it first came out. However, the series has had a little more of a difficult time catching on in the West, but it eventually grew to become incredibly popular and easily one of the most recognized franchises on the planet. And yet, for how iconic it is, Dragon Quest 1 has a startling lack of content. I mean, there's a reason that I tackle so few JRPGs on the show. Usually, these games take dozens, if not hundreds of hours to complete, and frankly, they can kind of be a repetitive slog. With Dragon Quest, I kept having the opposite problem. I was constantly thinking to myself, what am I missing here? Is that really all there is to it? So in later Dragon Quest games, there are side quests to keep track of, different classes to experiment with, powerful weapons to find or earn, but in OG Dragon Quest, none of that stuff really exists yet. There's only one party member to keep track of, a handful of weapons and armor to gather, and there are barely any side quests to speak of. This game feels scaled down in a way that seems out of step with more current RPGs. In Dragon Quest, it really is just one character up against the world. I never had to worry about if my other party members would level up at the same time, because I only had one to ever take care of at pretty much any given moment. Even earning enough experience to reach level 30 didn't earn me anything. I learned the last spell at level 19. All I got after that were a few more stat points. And strangely, I don't mind the grind. As Alex pointed out, this port makes leveling up and moving through the game easier than the original NES game did. Dragon Quest feels streamlined, cute, short, and very to the point. If you think there's a deeper level to this game, there really isn't. There are a couple of things that you can miss if you're trying to just blast your way through the game. I was surprised to learn that I could defeat the evil Dragon Lord without ever actually saving the princess, which is somewhat hilarious. Don't worry, I did. Otherwise, what would happen to the canon? I did appreciate that when you finally get to the showdown with Dragon Lord, there's an option to join him instead of battling him. Even if it ends the game right there, I love that you can choose the bad ending. See, from the very get-go, this was a role-playing game, and you can role-play as an absolute asshole. Thank you for providing that opportunity for 30 years, Dragon Quest. So there isn't much to offer beyond the main story, but I was fine with that. I can't hold it against a game that's over 30 years old. I just found it a little surprising that one of the most lauded franchises in video game history doesn't really have any endgame or postgame stuff going on. But hey, it made completion a lot easier. And for that, I will never complain. In a 2011 interview with Gamasutra, Yuji Horii had an interesting take on the concept. When asked about the simplicity of the first Dragon Quest, Horii said, "In the real world, there are so many difficulties people are facing. Sometimes there are no rewards. It's like climbing up a steep mountain. You have to keep climbing, and then at the end, you finally get to the top of the mountain and you see the beautiful view. This game's completion really is its own reward, getting that satisfying ending of saving the kingdom on your own. When I completed Dragon Quest, there were 8 hours played, which is honestly pretty short for the progenitor of a genre that has notoriously long games. 29 levels earned, getting me up to level 30. 4 deaths, resulting in me being taken back to the starting castle to battle my way through the land all over again. And 1 legendary franchise receiving new life on a popular console, giving Alex uneasy excitement about fresh remakes from the ground up.
Don't do that, Gerard. Don't give me hope.
So Alex, how would you describe your relationship with Dragon Quest? It's iconic, but seriously, I love this franchise. I love that the original games are on Switch just in time for a whole new generation of people who maybe haven't experienced them before. I love the history of the franchise, how it just nailed everything from the start and continues to deliver over and over again.
I feel you. I mean, it is Dragon Quest, right? I think now is a great time to dive into this series, especially if you haven't before. This game is definitely a little rough in places, and you could see where the improvement in the sequels could be going, but it's still a great time. I wish there had been a little more done to spruce up this version of the game, but it's still a pretty solid port.
Oh yeah. One of my absolute favorite things to do is go on rants about how this port could be better. So please, ask me about that all the time. I will always have a rant about that.
It's true. He and I have that same rant probably every morning before we record Beard Bros. All that being said, this is the JRPG that launched it all. It's short and sweet, and any nitpicks that I have with the port are just that, for the port. I wish there was more to do besides the main quest, but on the other hand, you basically complete this game in just by finishing it. So if you only spend a little extra time, you could grind to level 30 if you want. It's also the rare JRPG that can be finished basically in a weekend. You don't have a lot going on, it's a pretty solid time. So with that in mind, guys, and I swear Alex is not pointing anything towards my head to make this decision, I give this game my completionist rating of complete it.
Complete it!
That's all the time we have today, guys. So please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Alex, thank you for being here to talk about Dragon Quest a little bit.
I was going to say I liked this episode. I thought it was great.
You like this
I thought
episode?
It was well done.
Yeah? You really liked it?
I enjoyed watching it just now.
Great. You really, as we performed it, you were
I was all absorbed in it. I loved it.
Great.
I had a great time.
Speaking of which, if you like the show, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to keep notifications going for us. We do new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Did you know that? Wednesdays and Saturdays. Hit that sub and
I'm gonna give this channel a chance. I like it.
Appreciate it, dude. It's been what, 8 years?
Yeah,
9 years almost?
I'll check out an episode or two. What do you say?
I'm in. Guys, we'll see you next week.